Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. In just a few moments, we will begin Yom Kippur, and we will begin Kol Nidre. But in addition to starting Yom Kippur, today is also Friday. It means that we are also starting Shabbat. It's almost time for Shabbos. And it's a very unique Shabbos when Yom Kippur takes place on Shabbat, when it's Friday night into Saturday. It's the only time during the year when we fast on Shabbat. Normally we're supposed to enjoy and festive meals, but we push it off. We enjoy a festive meal before coming to shul, and then we enjoy eating together, breaking the fast at the end of Shabbat. But before we start Kol Nidre, before we welcome in Yom Kippur, a number of the prayers that we include today remind us that it's still Shabbos. And one of our favorite prayers here on Shabbos is the Birkat Kohanim, is the priestly blessing. And these ancient words were shared by Aaron and his sons, the first priests, with the entire congregation, and are still shared on special occasions throughout the Jewish world. They're shared at weddings and at baby namings and brises, and they're shared every Friday night with our children at home. At Temple Israel, we include Birkat Kohanim, the Yevarechecha, as part of our Friday evening services, and we share those words of blessing with the people around us. So I'm going to ask you to please rise. And before we welcome in Yom Kippur, we look at the people around us, we wish them a good Shabbos, and we join together in the words of the priestly blessing. Feel free to put your arms around the person next to you.
Yavarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
Ken yehi ratzon. May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Ken yehi ratzon.
May God's Spirit shine upon you, and may God be gracious unto you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom. Ken yehi ratzon yasim lecha shalom. Ken yehi ratzon yasim lecha shalom. Ken yehi ratzon.
May God's Spirit turn unto you, and may God grant you shalom, grant you peace. Ken yehi
Ken
ratzon.
yehi ratzon.
May be seated just for a moment. There's a book for children called The Magic of Kol Nidre by Cantor Bruce Siegel. And it's a story about a boy whose grandfather tells him that there is magic when Kol Nidre is sung. And the book traces the boy growing up, and by the time he becomes a grandfather himself, he understands why. And he writes at the end of the book, I look at the people milling around the sanctuary and know that finally I understand the magic of Kol Nidre. All these years, the answer was around me and I didn't see it. It is the people who every year on Yom Kippur fill the synagogues of the world to hear a simple, sad melody sung in a language most of them hardly know. Still they come, often not knowing why, not understanding what draws them in, knowing only that this is what Jews do, religious Jews and Jews who don't believe, Jews who come to synagogue every week, and Jews who come but once a year, Jews for whom the holidays are a joy, and Jews for whom the holidays are a mystery. The ancient Kol Nidre prayer or declaration, whose origins is shrouded in mystery and secrecy, we don't really know where it came from originally, marks our entryway to Yom Kippur. It is recited a few minutes before the sun goes down, a few minutes before Yontiv starts properly, and it marks the beginning of Yom Kippur, marks the beginning of the Day of Atonement. Kol Nidre takes the form of a Beit Din, of a court. The cantor and the rabbi and the Torah scrolls up on the bima, all dressed in white, take the place of the Dayanim, of the judges. And in the Kol Nidre declaration, we ask God to forgive us for the commitments that we made to God but were not able to fill through this year. And Kol Nidre serves as a reminder of the importance of taking our words seriously, of being careful, prudent with our words, and of following through when we say something. Let's turn to page 204 in the Machzor. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for those whose hearts are true. I invite you to please rise as the Torahs are processed in Cantor chants Or Zarua La Tzadik. The ark is open.
Or שמחה אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה ולישרי לב שמחה אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה
By the authority of the court on high and by the authority of this court below, with divine consent and with the consent of this congregation, we grant permission to pray with those who have transgressed.
בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים.
Page 205.
sharan shvikin shvitin betelin umevutalin la sheririn vela kayamin nidrana la nidre viesarana la esare
All the vows on our lips, the burdens in our hearts, the pent-up regrets about which we brooded and spoke through prayers without end on last Atonement Day, did not change our way of life, did not bring deliverance in the year that is gone. From the mountain peaks of fervor, we fell to common ways at the close of the fast. Will you hear our regret? Will you open our prison, release us from the shackles of habit? Will you accept our prayers, forgive our wrongs, though we sin again and again? In moments of weakness, we do not remember promises of Atonement Day. Recall that we easily forget. Take only our heart's intent. Forgive us, O Lord, pardon us. Ad Yom Kippurim haba, Ad Yom Kippurim haba, Aleinu letova, Kol on Kol on Yehon Sharan Shvikin Shvitin Betelin umevutalin La sheririn vela kayamin Nidrana la vows, devotions, promises and obligations, penalties and oaths, which we have vowed, sworn, and devoted ourselves before God, and to take upon ourselves from this Yom Kippur to the next Yom Kippur, may it find us well. We regret them, and for all of them we repent. Let all of them be discarded and forgiven, absolved, released, and annulled. They are not binding, they are not valid. Our vows will not be vows, our resolves will not be resolves, and our oaths will not be oaths.
וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות דין דרנה ודשתבנה ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה, ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה, ונשלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה. סלח נא על עוון העם הזה, כגודל חסדך, וכאשר נשאת לעם הזה ממצרים ועד הנה, ושם נאמר, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך, סלחתי כדבריך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, creator of the universe, for granting us life, for sustaining us, and for bringing us to this moment.
Amen.
The Torah scrolls are returned to the ark. As the ark is closed, you may be seated. So you know by now, Yom Kippur has a lot of standing up and sitting down. Please rise, you may be seated. We're fasting at the same time, and so as we begin the day, of course, point out that if you feel that you can't stand up, even while the ark is opening, please know you're not required to hurt yourself, and you may sit down. Let's turn to page 206. As it is Shabbat, we include portions of Kabbalat Shabbat, the Psalms that welcome in the day of rest. A psalm for the day of Shabbat, top of page 206.
Sometimes we don't have words, and so we allow a melody to carry our deepest prayers straight to heaven. Join with me. Yai la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la ya la 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Mizmor shir. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. U'zamer l'shimcha elyon. U'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. Lehagid baboker baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha ba'balilot alei azor va'alei nahabel alei higayon bechinor. Yai la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Tzadik tamar yifrach keres bavanon yizkeh shetulim beveit Adonai bechasrot Eloheinu yafrichu odin v'meseivad shanim v'ranim hiyu le'agi keresh Adonai tzuri v'lo avla tabo Adonai melaki lavish lavish Adonai zidana Mikolot mayim rabim hadirim mishpereyam adir bamarom Adonai erotecha nemnu mevetcha nava kodesh Adonai leorech yamim.
We turn to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 247, and I invite those in mourning or marking a yortzeit to rise and join me in the words of the Kaddish, page 247. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma divera kirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lomei omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei V'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yit'halal, shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela, le'ela, mikol berchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Damiran v'yalma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru amen. May be seated. Good Shabbos, good Yantiv. So you probably picked up from Rosh Hashanah, my remarks are more on the serious side this year. So I'll just open with this lighthearted comment about Yom Kippur. My grandfather, Julius Wolk of blessed memory, lived to 102 years old. He was a very fine dentist, but his claim to fame was that as a teenager, he played baseball with Hank Greenberg. He loved telling that story about playing with one of the two most famous Jewish baseball players, Crotona Park in the Bronx. And as he saw successive generations of his family become more religious, he loved to tell the story of Hank Greenberg not playing in the World Series on Yom Kippur, a famous story in the annals of American Jewish history. So with that in mind, I will say I am very grateful that the Mets wrapped things up so quickly that I don't need to worry about them today. Got that out of the way following up the Rosh Hashanah remarks. So Rabbi Yehuda Kariv is the rabbi of Kibbutz Lavi in Israel. He remembers the very last moments of normalcy last year. And I think at this moment, what he does, what I'm going to talk about tonight, is one of the keys to Jewish resilience, to the way that we stay strong, keep going in the face of such a dark year. He remembers the very last moment when things felt normal. It was Simchat Torah morning. He says, I was dancing with a Sefer Torah, with a Torah scroll in my arms, because we danced with the Torahs on Simchat Torah, when the head of the kibbutz's security team placed his hand on my shoulder and whispered in my ear, Rav Yehuda, keep dancing, but listen closely as I need your advice. 2 hours ago, a war broke out in the south. Dozens of terrorists have infiltrated and taken control of a number of settlements. Hundreds of rockets are falling in the area and as far as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The Home Front Command has instructed us to maintain our routine, but to be prepared for the possibility of a second front opening up in the north. Then he wanted to know, should we stop the Hakafot, the Simchat Torah dancing, and inform everyone of the situation? Or is it unnecessary for the time being? Rabbi Kariv recalls, I fell silent, completely in shock, despite not yet knowing the full magnitude of what had happened. I asked if the leadership of the kibbutz and the local emergency team were aware of the situation. He confirmed that they knew, so we decided together to continue the dancing. Our feet were dancing, he said, but our hearts were crying. Rabbi Kariv kept the dancing going for just a little longer, even as he knew that the joyful day was no more. He wanted to keep that feeling going just for a little bit longer. In one of the most well-known teachings from the Tanakh, from the Hebrew Bible, Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, advised us, L'kol zman ve'et, l'kol chefetz tachat hashamayim. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven. Et laledet ve'et lamut. A time for being born and a time for dying. Kohelet divides the world, divides time into the happy moments and the sad moments, the moments we enjoy and the difficult moments, the moments that are more challenging. Kohelet continues and contrasts between life and death, happiness and sadness. Eit livkot ve'eit lischok, a time for crying and a time for laughing. Eit sefod ve'eit rakod, a time for wailing and a time for dancing. In Jewish tradition, dancing is a symbol of pure joy, of happiness, a physical act that no matter what form it takes, expresses what the dancer is feeling on the inside. Last year, the line between life and death, between crying and dancing, was crossed too often, both metaphorically and literally. And I can't help but thinking, as if the lives taken and the lives permanently damaged weren't enough. The monsters who came out of Gaza took one of the most joyous days on the Jewish calendar, Simchat Torah, the day that we dance with the Torah scrolls and celebrate our continued engagement with this most ancient and sacred text. Since then, it's felt like it's been impossible to dance, impossible to feel the joy that is meant to be such an essential part of life. It feels like that Eit Rakod, the time to dance that the rabbi of Kibbutz Lavi kept for just a little bit longer, will never come back. So tonight, I want to share 2 stories of 8 Rakod, 2 stories of Jewish people refusing to give up to stop their dancing. This year I was inspired by a book called The Rabbi of Buchenwald, The Life and Times of Herschel Schachter by Raphael Medoff. Rabbi Schachter, an Orthodox rabbi, was an influential leader of American Jewry during the mid-20th century and a supporter of the Free Soviet Jewry movement. But at the very beginning of his career, he was in his 20s, he was a chaplain in the United States Army and was on site the day that the Buchenwald concentration camp was liberated. He was the first American rabbi to see a death camp and to interact with survivors. Although his job was to minister to the GIs, he spent months caring for and advocating for the survivors who had been in the clutches of the Nazis just hours before he arrived. Several months after the liberation, a group of young survivors who still had no place to go approached Rabbi Schachter with a request. They wanted a piece of land in Germany, a piece of land on which to build a kibbutz, or a collective community, like the ones we know about in Israel. So Rabbi Schachter negotiated with the military government, military leadership, to procure for them a nearby tract of land, a piece of land that, in fact, before the war, had been the site of what was called a hachshara, or a proto-kibbutz. Soon after the first groups of these new kibbutzniks arrived, they found a parchment that had been torn from a Torah scroll and left there on the ground. And they joined together to bury it. And they found scribbled on the wall a message from the earlier Jewish residents who had most likely been taken to their deaths. It said on the wall of one of the buildings, "We will yet return." They named their new community Kibbutz Buchenwald, and the community celebrated a Chanukhat Habayit, or a dedication. Writing back to America, Rabbi Schachter described the joyful scene, and he said, "The inspired songs and animated horas, which these people had not sung or danced for so many tragic years, reverberated, I am sure, for miles around. A huge Zionist flag was hoisted on a long flagpole over the roof of the farmhouse. Of course, their songs were mingled with sorrow, and their smiling faces were dampened by the bitterness of their tears. For how could they forget the overwhelming losses that they had sustained? Not one had a father or mother. No one knew of sisters or brothers. They were completely alone, bereft of their dearest relatives and any possessions that they may have had." He speculated about what gave them strength to carry on, the strength to dance and to hope. In the midst of the sorrow and pain and tears, one ideal sustained them. One hope gave them indomitable faith. They were chalutzim, they were pioneers, and now they are chalutzim again. The tragic interruption notwithstanding, they are taking up where they left off. They can see a ray of light again piercing the black and foreboding clouds of despair. They see again the road, hard and long as it may be, but they are nevertheless again on the road to Eretz Yisrael. If you go on the website of the United States Holocaust Museum, you can find this picture. No, you won't be able to see it. It looks like Jews dancing in a circle. That's what we do. We run in circles. It's how we express joy. But I absolutely love this picture. It's a picture of young Jewish people who, a few months before this, had been inmates in a concentration camp. And here they are celebrating the dedication of their kibbutz, Kibbutz Buchenwald, with singing and dancing as Jews do. Over the next few years, the members of this kibbutz made Aliyah, first to mandatory Palestine, and then after its founding to the State of Israel. And they founded their kibbutz Netzer Serini, which still exists in central Israel. 75 or so years later, I'm sure that they have descendants who experienced the horrors of October 7th. Dancing in Israel doesn't look so much like this anymore, but it remains a symbol of life and vitality. When I visited Israel in January with the Zionist Rabbinic Coalition, We went to the first exhibit in Tel Aviv to recreate the scene of the Nova Music Festival. We went to the wrong entrance, and we missed the woman who was supposed to guide us. So we wandered through the recreated scenes of destruction by ourselves. And this is the exhibit that's made its way around America that you can see as well. Then, as we were getting ready to leave, the guide found us. A woman in her mid-20s, she came off as the typical Israeli, who brusquely took us to task for wasting her time. Now, most Israelis probably would have responded to her anger with some more anger and shouting back, but we were a group of rabbis, so the group leader apologized and tried to engage her in conversation, to ask her what brought her to this exhibit, to showing groups around. And we quickly learned that she was a survivor of the music festival. She told us a little bit about her life story. Several years before, she had actually left Israel and gone to Germany to live there. And she was drawn into the trance music scene. She's part of a group that travels all over the world to participate in music festivals like Nova. Now, as you might imagine, the trance music scene is not really my scene, and it's not my type of music. But her descriptions of an international community of people from Israel and people from Europe and people from Australia meeting up all over the world to spend 3 days dancing together, and the community that they formed in between those festivals was truly beautiful. And she shared with us her horrifying experiences of that day, of running and hiding under bodies for hours. She showed us videos on her phone. The first video that she showed us was of dancing at the festival at sunrise, just 6 minutes before the first terrorists burst into the festival. Then she showed us videos of her friends being gunned down. That first video, I think about it, it was couldn't think of those hundreds of young hippies, to describe them best, joyfully dancing their minds out, not knowing what was about to happen just a few minutes later. Her survival was miraculous, and she was grateful for it. She told us that after that, she had decided not to return to her life in Germany, but rather, she was going to stay in Israel, and she was going to teach about the culture of her international dance community, and she was going to teach about that Black Day. From her mouth, I heard for the first time words that are now very familiar, the brave words that have become the motto of the festival survivors. They say, "We will dance again." Too many of us can't do what Rabbi Kariv did in the kibbutz, holding off the sorrow for a little bit to keep the joy going. Don't feel that we can do what the survivors of Buchenwald did. Don't feel that we have the strength to do what the survivors of the Nova Festival continued to do. We are mired in the 8-leaf coat, the time to cry, and cannot imagine a future 8 Rakod, a time to dance. So perhaps we need to look at Kohelet, at Ecclesiastes, who told us there's a time for this and there's a time for that, and tell him that he's wrong. We cannot always draw a clear line between joy and sadness. As Jews, we always talk about a messianic future, a future when everything is perfect, everything is peaceful, everything is joyful. Again, Jews invoke dancing when we imagine that future. The Hasidic master, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, paints a beautiful image of God leading the tzaddikim, the righteous, in a dance circle. It's a very powerful image. But in his image, it's God who leads us in dance, because in that messianic future, God makes everything right. God provides all the answers right then and there. We wish we had the answer for all the things that are so wrong. We wish we knew what to do, how to end a war in Israel so that there is real peace, how to fight anti-Semitism in the United States so that it doesn't come back. But we don't. those problems will persist. And that is one of the reasons why I think a day like today, a day like Yom Kippur, is one of the most valuable days of the year. We call this day the day of judgment, the day that God judges us for the year to come. But even if we don't take that theology literally, the day is so much more. The holiday of Yom Kippur challenges us to consider our mortality, to imagine our ends, and to blur the lines between life and death just a little. Then to imagine what we could and should do with the time we have. The restrictions and the customs of Yom Kippur are well known. We wear white, a kittel that reminds us of the shrouds that we will one day be buried in. And we refrain from physical activities like eating and self-care because we leave our physical bodies just for a little bit, and we imagine that we are as we will be when we stand before God after we die. Even if we are fully healthy, we act as if, and we pretend that we are about to die. Because at the end of the day, we should realize that our time is our most precious limited resource, and that we must use it wisely. I think the wisest people, the strongest people, the most resilient people are the people who invoke the part of Jewish tradition that tells us there can be joy mixed with sadness. There can be dancing at the same time as there is crying. They know that even coming out of, surviving one of the darkest, worst, most horrific days imaginable, that they can dance again. This is the secret of Jewish resilience. Wish you a Gmar Chatima Tova. May be a meaningful day for each of us as we go through this day. We talk to God, connect to each other, connect to the people around us, and connect to our deepest selves and plan for the year to come, planning how we can live joyfully, fully, even with so much darkness, so much sadness around us. Let's turn in the Machzorim to page 207. The evening service is chanted in the special nusach, the special melodies of the high holidays. Tell us exactly what day it is. Page 207, please rise for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
Yasher Koach, and will you invite people who want to come move forward that they can? That's what Sam asked me to do.
As we go through the service, if anyone would like to move forward and find empty seats, please feel free to do so as well. Be seated. Blessed are you, Lord our God, creator of the universe, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, rolls light before darkness and darkness from before the light.
Umavir yom, umevi laila, umavir ben yom, uvein laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo, elachai v'kayam tamidim nochalinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai.
Page 208, Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך, לעולם עד עולם. בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת.
Shir Kochecht, Pnina Polski.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, והם נגע יומם ולילה, בבטך תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני. אוהב עמו ישראל, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה עם שמות תשמעו.
You on page 209. ויאמר משה לפרעה בני ישראל.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Then Moses, Miriam, and the people of Israel joyfully sang this song to you, Mi Chamocha Ba'alim Adonai, middle of page 210.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם
משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה. בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורות תהילות אוסף מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר יום לפני משה, זה ליאנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Allow us, God, to sleep peacefully and awaken us again to life. Remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Blessed are you who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 211.
Don't put baby in the corner.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, שלומך. Sometimes I lay under the moon, I thank God I'm breathing, and I pray don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day.
Join us.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים.
page 212. Please rise. We join together Vishamru at the top of the page.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. V'niu v'bnei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash.
Ki vayom hazeh.
Oh, thank you, Rabbi. Ki vayom hazeh yichaper alechem letaher etchem mikol chatotechem lifnei Adonai titharu, titharu.
For on this day atonement shall be made for you to purify you from all your transgressions. In the presence of the Lord you shall be pure.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbai.
Amen.
Bi'almadi v'rach irutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael b'galau v'zman kariv yimeru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbai mevorach le'olam u'le'olmei olamaya yitbarach. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei kudsha brichu. Leila u'leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbecha eta v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen.
We spend the next few moments in silent prayer with the words of the Amidah, beginning on page 213. We include the special insertions for Shabbat.
When you've completed your Amidah, you may be seated. The rabbi spoke about resilience in his sermon, and this Lador Vador is called Forevermore, and it was written just for us, for Temple Israel, for our congregation, and I guess for the Jewish people at large, and it nods to our resilience from generation to generation. Every prayer that lifts above us, every dream that hides among us, every hope that fights to last, every question asked and answered, like a sacred holy password, unlocks our own link to the past. Ledor vador, nagid God lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, ledor vador, forever you, forever me, forevermore. Every time we come together, every whisper of forever, every heart deserves a love like this. So every night and every morning, with every line of every story, your song will never leave our lips. Ledor vador, nagid God lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, ki hamelech hagadol v'hakadosh ata, ki hamelech hagadol, ki hamelech hagadol v'hakadosh ata, ki hamelech hagadol, el melech hagadol, hagadol v'hakadosh ata, el melech hagadol, hagadol v'hakadosh ata, ledor vador, nagid God lecha, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, ledor vador, forever us, forever we, forevermore.
We turn to page 223 and turn to the Slichot portion of the Yom Kippur service. Each service has a series of poems based around the recitation of Adonai, Adonai, the 13 attributes of God. We believe that Yom Kippur is the day on which God forgave the Israelites for the sin of the golden calf, and we invoke Moses' words over and over again, seeking to play to God's sympathy, to remind God of that day which God forgave the Israelites for the first time. The introductory piyut, or poem, is called Ya'aleh. May our supplications rise up at evening. Page 223, please rise as the ark is opened.
יעלה תחנוננו מערב, ויבוא שבתנו מבוקר, וירא רינוננו עד ערב, וירא רינוננו עד ערב. יעלה קולנו מערב, ויבוא צדקתנו מבוקר, וירא פדיוננו עד ערב, וירא פדיוננו עד ערב.
May our voices rise up at evening, our righteous acts arrive with the dawn, our redemption transform the dusk. May our suffering rise up at evening, our forgiveness arrive with the dawn, our purity transform the dusk. May our prayers rise up at evening, coming to you with the dawn, transforming us at dusk.
יעלה כתנו בערב, ויבוא אליך מבוקר, וירא אלינו עד ערב, וירא אלינו עד ערב.
As the ark is closed, you may be seated. The soul is yours, the body is your creation. Have compassion on your handiwork. Top of page 225, Haneshama Lach.
הנשמה לך, והגוף פה לך, חוסה, 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 על המלאך. הנשמה לך, והגוף שלך, אדוני עשה עשה למען שמך. עטנו על שמך אדוני, עשה כבוד שמך אדוני, כי רחום וחנון שמך, למען שמך אדוני, וסלח לעווננו כי רב הוא. הנשמה לך והגוף פה לך,
Adonai, Adonai, God merciful and compassionate, patient, abounding in love and faithfulness, assuring love for thousands of generations, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, and granting pardon. Page 226, please rise in the middle of the page.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet. Notzer chesed lalafim, notzer chesed lalafim, nose avon v'afesha v'chata v'salachta lavoneinu l'chatateinu u'ncharetanu. Salach lanu avinu ki chatanu, mechal lanu malkeinu ki fashanu, ki ata Adonai tov v'salach, v'rav chesed lechol korecha.
May be seated. Page 227, Kihine Kachomer. Each stanza of this piyut, of this poem, imagines us as a beautiful raw material, the ability to be shaped by God into a work of art, into something beautiful, and ends with the refrain, La Brit Habeit Ve'al Tefen La Yetzer, recall your covenant, do not heed the accuser, page 227.
Kine kachomer biad hayotzer, virtzoto marchiv uvirtzoto mekatzer, ken anachnu beyadcha chesed notzer, la berit habeit ve'al tefen la yetzer, kine ka'even biad hamsatet, birtzoto ches uvirtzoto mechatet, ken anachnu biyadcha mechaya umemotet, la bernit habeit ve'al tefen la yetzer.
As the helm and hand of the sailor who holds the course or abandons it at will, so are we in your hand, good and forgiving God. Recall your covenant, do not heed the accuser. As cloth in the hand of the draper who drapes or twists it at will, so are we in your hand, righteous God. Recall your covenant, do not heed the accuser.
Kine kakesef biad hatzoref, birto misakseg, uvirtoto mitzaref, ken anachnu biyadcha, mamtzi lamazor teref, lam berit habeit, ve'atefen la yetzer.
God, you taught us how to recite the 13 attributes of your name. Remember the promise implied in these 13 attributes, which you first revealed to Moses, the humble one. Page 229, El Melech Yoshev Al Kisei Rachamim.
El Melech Yoshev al Kisei Rachamim, midnaheg b'chasidut, mochel avonot amo, ma'avir rishon
rise.
לומר 13, זכר לנו היום ברית 13, כמו שהודעת עלינו מקדם, כמו שכתוב וירד אדוני בענן, ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני, ויעבור אדוני על פניו, ויקרא. אדוני, אדוני, אל רחום וחנון, אל רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקם, וסלחת על עווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו, סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח, מרב חסד לכל קוראיך.
Turn to page 233. The ark is open, the second paragraph. Hear our voice, Adonai our God. Be kind and have compassion for us. Willingly and lovingly accept our prayer. Turn us toward you, O God, and we will return to you. Make our days seem fresh as they once were. Shema Kolenu.
Shema kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, whose verachim aleinu, v'kabel berachamim uvratzon, et tefilateinu. Shema kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, whose verachim aleinu, v'kabel berachamim uvratzon, et tefilateinu. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, v'nashuva, Chadesh Yameinu כקדם. אל תשליכנו מלפניך, ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו. שמע קולנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חוס ורחם עלינו, וקבל ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו. אל תשליכנו, אל תשליכנו לציפנה.
ark is closed. You may be seated. Continue. We join together the top of page 234.
Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu, selach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu, ki anu amecha v'ata Eloheinu, anu v'amecha v'ata avinu, anu avadecha v'ata Adonenu, anu kehavecha v'ata chekenu, anu nachlatecha v'ata goralenu, anu tzonecha v'ata roenu, anu charmecha v'ata notrenu, anu fe'umatecha v'ata yotrenu, anu rayatecha v'ata dodenu, anu segulatecha v'ata kerobenu, anu amecha v'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha v'ata mamirenu. Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu, tavo lefanecha tfilatenu, ve'al titala mitchinatenu, she'en anachnu azefani mukshei oref lomar lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu, tzadikim anachnu ve'lo chatanu, aval anachnu ve'Avotenu v'Imotenu chatanu.
We've reached the Vidoy section of the service. Vidoy is the word for confession and appears in every one of the 5 services for Yom Kippur. Actually starts with Mincha before Yom Kippur. Vidoy, the confession, it's a time when we talk about sin. Sin is a word that outside of religious settings we probably don't use very often. We don't think of the things that we do wrong too often as sinful or sins. And Jewish tradition imagines sin, something most of the time you can't see, as a metaphor, in different metaphors. Rabbis imagine sin as a burden that we carry with us that weighs us down, or a stain we wear on our clothing that dirties us, or a debt that we have that also weighs us down, that carry with us, that affects us at all times. And although we are supposed to actually recite a Vidoy every day, it is part of the tshuva process on Yom Kippur. And tshuva, repentance, returning, includes admitting what we have done wrong, feeling genuine regret over it, and committing never to do it again. The Vidoy, as printed in our prayer book in most machzorim, is made up of 2 confessions, a shorter one and a longer one. And we say them together. Each one is recited in the plural together with the congregation, not because we are guilty of each and every single one, but because we approach God as a greater community. The words on the page are supposed to inspire us to think about what it is that we are actually talking to God about during this time. Penina is going to introduce the Vidoy for us.
Am I there for those who need me? Giving of my heart completely. Have I been caring and have I been patient? Have I forgiven without reservation? Do I take my days for granted? Treated others even-handed? And shown compassion to the homeless stranger? Have I been humble before my Creator? Ve'al kulam, Elohai
tread lightly on the planet? Have I held fast to your commandment? And have I raised my voice against injustice? Have I been giving or have I been selfish?
ועל כולם, ועל כולם, אלוהי סליחות, ועל כולם, ועל כולם, ועל כולם, אלוהי סליחות, ועל כולם. סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו, ועל כולם. סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו, ועל כולם. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, אלוהי סליחות, ועל כולם, ועל כולם, ועל כולם, אלוהי סליחות, ועל כולם.
Page 235. Please rise. We join together. We repeat phrase by phrase after the cantor the words of the Ashamnu, as we strike our hearts with each phrase.
Ay, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu,
Anu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Tibarnu Dofi,
Tibarnu Dofi,
Evinu,
Hevinu,
Vehirshanu,
Vehirshanu,
Zadnu,
Zadnu,
Hamasnu,
Hamasnu,
Tafanu Sheker,
Tafalnu Sheker.
Ay, 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 Yatznura,
Yatznura,
Kizavnu,
Kizavnu,
Latznu,
Latznu,
Maradnu,
Maradnu,
Niatznu,
Niatznu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Avinu,
Avinu,
Pashanu,
Ashanu,
Sararnu,
Sararnu,
Kishinu Oref,
Shinu Oref,
ay, 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 Rashanu, Shichatnu,
Shivanu,
Tiavnu, Tainu,
Tainu,
Titanu, ay, 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 Sarnu mimitzvotecha umimishpatecha hatovim velo shavalanu, ve'ata tzadik al kol haba'alenu ki emet asita v'anachnu hirshanu.
You know the mysteries of the universe, the deepest secrets of everyone alive. You probe our innermost thoughts. You examine our thoughts and feelings. Nothing escapes you. Nothing is secret from you. May it be your will, our God and God of our ancestors, to forgive us of all our sins, to pardon us for all our iniquities, and to grant us atonement for all our transgressions. Page 237, Al Chait.
על החטא שחטאת לבניך באונס וברצון, והחטא שחטאת לבניך באימוץ הלב, והחטא שחטאת לבניך באימוץ הלב. על חשך לבנך ביצר הרע, ועל חשך לבנך ביודעים ובלא יודעים. ועל כולם אלוהי צליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו. על חשך לבנך בחחש ובחזה, ועל חשך לבנך בחפת שוחד. על חשך לבנך בעיניים רמות, ועל חשך לבנך בעזות מצח. ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו. על חשך לבנך ועל חשך לבנך בפלילות, על חשך לבנך. על חשך לבנך בתשומת יד, ועל חשך לבנך בתימהון לבב. ועל כולם אלוהי סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו, כפר לנו.
We turn to page 245 on Yom Kippur that falls on Shabbat. We wait until the very end of the day to recite the prayer Avinu Malkeinu at the end of Ne'ilah tomorrow evening as the sun goes down. So we continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 245.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא תברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביום בחון, ובחיי תכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמין. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם, מהומיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתעטר ויתעלה ויתעלל, שמי תקודשה פריחו לעילה ולעילה, מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בהומה. ואמרו אמין. תתגבר תלות הונובה ותהון דכל ישראל, קודם אבוהון וישמעיה. ואמרו אמין. יש למה רבה בין שמעיה וחיים עלינו ויעקב ישראל. ואמרו אמין. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו
Page 246, Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליותר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושבי קרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו ושכינתו הכתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום
May be seated. We turn to page 248. Psalm 27 is recited throughout the season of repentance. Say, one thing I ask of God, this I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, and behold God's beauty, and visit in God's sanctuary. Page 248.
Let's join together. Achat sha'alti. I think you know this by now. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti otav hakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti otav hakesh. Shifti, shifti, beveit Adonai. Shifti, shifti, kol yemei chayai, lachazot benoam Adonai. Ulevaker behechalo, lachazot benoam Adonai. To gaze upon the beauty of Luleihem unto liroba tu Adonai beretz chaim, kavel Adonai chazak v'yametz libecha v'kavel Adonai.
Turn to page 247 for the Mourner's Kaddish. I invite those in mourning or marking a yortzeit to rise and join me in the words of the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divera kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen, yehi shemei rabbah mevorach leolam olamei maya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'yimru amen yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May be seated. Big Yasher Kochech to Cantor Lissick for leading us for beginning Yom Kippur with Kol Nidrei, assisted by Adam and Oksana, joined us this evening. Thank you to our honors committee for facilitating the service and making it move. This is just the beginning of Yom Kippur, and traditionally on Yom Kippur, we say we spend all day in synagogue. We spend a lot of time in synagogue, not quite all day. But tomorrow we have a very busy day that starts at 9 o'clock a.m. with both the family service here in the sanctuary and the traditional Shacharit service in the Mindy Ellen Levine Chapel down the hall. Then at 10:15 we begin the Torah service in here in the sanctuary, and that includes my sermon and the Yizkor service, both which will be around 11:15 a.m. We continue with Musaf that takes us to around 2 o'clock. And in the break, in between the services, we have two options. People often like to spend their time at the synagogue here or learn on Yom Kippur, and we're very happy to have Dr. Jonathan Fisher teaching us about living with a Lev Shalem, which is on the cover of the book, the Machzor. It means a whole heart. It is also very much the subject of his research as a cardiologist and generally wise man. So 2 o'clock tomorrow, come learn with Dr. Fisher in the Mindy Ellen Levine Chapel. At 3:30, if you'd like to meet me in the courtyard outside, we'll do a little walk and reflection through the neighborhood. I like to take a little stretch in between the different services. 5 o'clock, we are back here in the sanctuary for the Mincha, the afternoon service, followed by Ne'ilah at around 6:15. And in Ne'ilah, we will be starting or possibly bringing back an old custom, giving people the opportunity to come up to the Ark with their families if they'd like a moment of private prayer during the course of the service, when the Ark is opened. We also invite anyone who has a shofar, who'd like to bring it at the very end of the day, to join us on the bima to say goodbye to Yom Kippur and sound the Tekiah Gedolah at around 7:30, followed by break the fast, which we are all looking forward to already. Did I get everything, Tom? Okay, Tom Bach.
Thank you, Rabbi. Gemar Hatima Tova and a Shabbat Shalom. May you and yours be inscribed for a wonderful year ahead, filled with all the blessings. It's wonderful to see you all back. I presented a long, some may say detailed, but meaningful update to you on Rosh Hashanah, followed by an important appeal. Thank you very much for those of you who have already given. I will not repeat my remarks, but as there's still time to give, I'll offer you the following quick reminders. With rising security concerns and threats to places of worship, it is crucial that we enhance our safety measures to ensure the well-being of this sacred space, allowing us to continue serving you, our congregants, in peace and security. Couple of quick numbers, $28,000 or $54 per family, if every family gave, is the minimum gap we need to close for security costs. And $3,350 is the average family contribution we need to match our temple operating costs for the full year. The shul sent out an email on Tuesday with instructions on how to contribute online. But the basic gist of it is, you go to the donation page on the temple website. Under the payment type, please select High Holiday Appeal. Okay, on to the rest of the announcements. Quick thank you to Kevin Levine and Louis Cinco for all the help with the temporary theater seats for the High Holidays and for donating their trailer so that we could collect for the JFS food drive. I was out there, it's looking good. Thank you so much for contributing. Also, thank you to the Sadie Starr and Anita and Marvin Shapiro Temple Fund for the beautiful flowers on Rosh Hashanah, and to Pearl and Alan Mann and Liba and Harold Russo for tonight and tomorrow's flowers donated in loving memory of their parents. On Tuesday, Samantha sent out an email with details on all the events, but here is a quick recap. Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m., the men's club will lead the building of the sukkah. Please join if you can. It's a fantastic event where the community comes together as one. However, if you are more of a decorator than a builder, then please come 11 to 1 and create decorations that will truly make our wonderful sukkah a unique and special place, while eating some hot dogs. Families and individuals of all ages are welcome. Registration is required, but the men's club will take care of the cost. Once the sukkah is up, there are a ton of events held there, starting with Erev Sukkot on October 16th, where Jackie Kaplan generously sponsored a discussion with Abigail Pogrebin. Then we continue with a number of food-related events with the various auxiliary groups, but since I don't want to make your fast any harder than it should be, I will just refer you to the temple website and Samantha's email for details, including registration requirements for all the events. Finally, on October 24th, we will have another food-themed Simchat Torah celebration on the one-year Hebrew calendar anniversary of the Hamas attack. Let us dance together and show the world that nothing will stop us from dancing and enjoying our Torah scrolls. As you can see, the holiday events are not even close to being done. I'm excited by the many opportunities to connect with each other during the holiday season and beyond. Wishing you a safe and meaningful fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. While we're on page 247, if you look at the very last verse on the page, the end of the Kaddish, we'll conclude tonight with a prayer that we recite at the end of the Kaddish and the end of every Amidah. We conclude Kol Nidre with the words of Oseh Shalom, our prayer for peace.
Yes, this might seem almost too positive, but I feel like, or we felt that that's what we need right now, is to pray for peace, to envision peace, to manifest peace right here, right now. Oseh Shalom, v'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom, v'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace throughout the world. Peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace throughout the world. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, v'imromav, join me. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, v'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. Let there be peace, let there be peace. We need peace down here right now. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, v'imromav, Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, v'imromav.
L'shana tova techatemu, may you be sealed for a good year, good Shabbos, and good Yontiv.
Good Shabbos, good Yontiv.